And welcome back to Metropole Sports Center. My name is Nashon Oana. As I promised you in the first part of the show, we are going to be delving deeper into matters Kenya Premier League. And I'm joined in studio once again by our resident African football analyst, that is Eric Shilenje. Shilenje, welcome to the show once again.
Thank you. Thank you, Nashon.
The AWCON tournament ended and you took a sabbatical for a couple of weeks to catch. That was an impressive analysis of the AWCON tournament. Yeah. You never got quite got the time to review, but I think we're going to be having that conversation another time. But Shilenje, the topic of discussion today is the Kenya Premier League. There's a lot of activities that took place this past week, not necessarily in the Kenya Premier League, but in the local football. Specifically, the Gor Mahia team, they're celebrating their anniversary this year, yeah? And there's not so much to talk about in terms of the development of the club so far.
Sure, there is nothing for sure, because they are celebrating their 54th, I think, yeah, their 54th anniversary, but there is nothing much to write home, apart from the 18 Premier League titles that they have, but I think they are just titles by name, not by tangible evidence, something that you can see and say, yeah, this is a club that has been in operation for the last 54 years. There is really nothing, and I don't know what they are celebrating for sure. And there should be so many questions about towards that, towards the entire leadership of the team, the fan base, and let me say the entire constitution of the Gor Mahia family. There is a lot that is left to desire about what they are celebrating for sure.
Okay. Shilenje, the sad thing is 54 years later, Gor Mahia doesn't even have a stadium to play.
Imagine.
Their home ground.
Imagine.
Stadium.
How can you, like, how can you equate that? 54 years, they don't have an existing merchandise for their jerseys and their team their team goods. They don't have that. They don't have a stadium. They don't have a training ground. They don't have an established academy for the young team that comes into feeds into the bigger team. They don't have records. You can't ask Gor Mahia what happened
between this year
and this year into writing. Do they have that? They don't have. It's just absurd what they are celebrating.
Okay. And in terms of Gor Mahia as a team, there is a devil that has been following the team for the longest time. And this one is not only in the Gor Mahia game, but it's something that affects all the Kenya Premier League teams, and that is the stoppage of games due to hooliganism. Let's talk about the event that took place this past week, Gor Mahia versus Vihiga Bullets. Looking at that particular game, I understand you are on location. How you can maybe take us through how that transpired, and probably as a football fan, how that impacts you individually.
It was first of all very uncertain that it happened towards the end of the first half. Yes, the game was still barren until Gor Mahia scored in the 44th minute. And in the melee of celebrations, there were fans outside who were trying to force their way into the game because they didn't have tickets. And in that fiasco of forcing their way into the stadium, one fan made it to the stadium, but he was stopped by the stewards. And now there was an escalation between the stewards and the other fans who are coming to rescue one of them because he had managed to creep into the field without the ticket. And that is when everything broke loose. There are so many hula balloons, runaways, cat and mouse chasing one another in the field. In fact, they've added there were injury time of about 4 minutes. They were not played. The referee had to cut short the first half. And when they went to the dressing room, Vihiga Bullets never came back. They said they didn't feel safe to come and play again, and that is how the match was suspended. but that is very, very absurd. I thought as Kenyan football, we were away ahead from those hooliganisms that we used to see in years back. I thought Gor Mahia had reformed, but that is not the case, because such a kind of act cannot attract corporate sponsorships. No one will want to be associated with hooliganism. Yeah. Such kind of act will not attract neutral fans to the field. There might be neutral fans who are not for Gor Mahia or who are not for Vega Bullets, who want to enjoy a game. They will not come to the field. Such acts cannot encourage a young boy who wants to join football, who wants to dedicate his career to becoming a professional football. They can't encourage, because if he sees that is what happens on the field of play, then there will be no need for such young man joining the game.
Interesting thing you mentioned there about sponsorship, and most of these corporate sponsors are usually very sensitive in terms of how their brand is presented out there. So it's important for us to talk about how that is going to impact the game. But looking at that particular incident, this is not the first time we're having this incident. I remember there's a time I was covering the AFC, the Mashemeji Derby at Kasarani, and at some point I think there was a refereeing decision that was quite a bit questionable. In the blink of a moment, I saw the seats already being thrown into the field. So how do we move away from matters hooliganism, Shilenje? Because it's really affecting local football.
I think it's a very big matter that needs to begin with the teams themselves. These football clubs, and I may want to refer to Gor Mahia and FC Leopards, and at some small extent Kakamega Homeboys, because I've also watched the matches at Kakamega, whereby if they don't get the 3 points, the opponents are in problems. And that's something that is creeping into those fans at Homeboys. But I believe for Homeboys it can be stopped, because it's at the starting level. But for Gor Mahia and FC, these are established clubs which need to put discipline into their fans, because when these things happen, like the Gor fiasco, is the team that suffers. This likely they are going to be imposed a fine and banned from using Kasarani. It is the team that is going to suffer, not the fans. Now, what can the team do to stop these fans from destroying property, stopping games, and just causing some bad scenes on the field of play? They need to look for these fans, because they know them. For the case of Gor Mahia, it's already said that it's Madare 34A branch that caused all these problems. Why can they go for these fans? Why can they?
So there's no level of accountability
there's nothing
from the teams.
There's nothing from the teams. The team just watches and also sympathizes with itself instead of taking action against these fans, which they know them. They know them. These are fans who want to force their way into the field. They don't want to pay for the tickets. They don't want to support the team, because if you are supporting a team and we love your team, you need to pay a ticket to watch your team. But if you want to watch for free, by force, then you're not supporting the team. These are fans who needs to be weeded out of the game. And Gor Mahia knows this. FC Leopards knows this. They need to take individual punishment to these particular fans before even the federation comes in, or high authorities come in. If, for example, Gor Mahia can take an action of looking for these specific funds, they hand them to police, they report them that these are the people who did this and this, and they have evidence, they're on camera, they're all over. They cause a lot of distraction at Kasarani. That can be a good starting point. But as long as these teams don't take individual responsibilities against the specific funds who cause problems, then hooliganism is not going to end. They shall live in cries all the time, crying that we don't have sponsorship, when they know
it is those simple things.
When they know that corporate sponsorship pegs their involvement on their image. It's it's a simple brain all over the world. It is about the image of the sponsor.
Okay. Shilenje, speaking about matters, the brand and the image that is there, right now the image of the removed FKF team that was led by Nick Mwendwa has in a way affected the play right now, because our women's team, that is the Harambes Starlets, are not going to be representing the country in a continental competition. Looking at that particular incident, just before I get back to you, I think my director is going to give me some of what the letter that was sent by the chair of the FKF caretaker committee, that is a retired justice, that is Aaron Ringera. The following is just what he had to say about the move by the move that led to Harambe Starlets not playing in the continuing AWCON tournament. Now I'm going to read that particular statement in part, and it says, however, one of the reasons why the Harambe Starlets is not in the AWCON tournament is because of a letter that was sent by the former General Secretary, that is Barry Otieno. And it says, however, a letter from Mr. Barry Otieno, General Secretary in the now disbanded FKF, put a stop to the dreams of the girls. Barry indicated that Kenya is not ready to play the qualifiers effectively, removing the team from the qualifiers, handing Uganda a direct qualification. Nothing could be done further from the nothing could be further from the truth. The FKF caretaker committee has had the girls in camp training from the 26th of January, and the last part of that particular statement, which was sent by retired Justice Aaron Ringera, said the following: that all efforts have been put in place. Just all efforts have been put in place to enable the girls train effectively, including getting a new coach and technical team for the Starlets. That letter by Barry Otieno has ensured that Kenya does not take part in the qualifiers, and we as the caretaker committee view that as a selfish act and an affront on our women who worked so hard where they are right now. Shilenje, speaking about this particular issue, looks like the row in the local football has not come to an end still. We're still having those tussles, and as we are seeing from this particular instance, it is our teams and the women's team in particular that are suffering.
Yeah, yes, it's a very sad situation, and my worry is that is just the first. We might have so many more unless the situation is going to be resolved amicably. But I would like to blame the caretaker committee for this mess. It is their big mistake they made, because when they were signed into office to take care of Kenyan football in a transition period of 6 months, it seems they don't understand their job. They didn't understand their mandate, what they are supposed to do, how the world governing body and the African CAF Federation works. Like, they don't understand. And my problem is there are people there who've been involved into the game, the likes of Tuaham Barak. There are so many journalists into that caretaker committee that understands how FIFA works, how CAF works, but they don't advise the committee accordingly. Yes, that's has been the main problems. They're trying to react to what has already happened between CAF and the former FKF Federation office. They're trying to react instead of acting in the right way. When you have a decision that has worked against your wishes by CAF, you need to appeal. It's just as simple as that. You need to appeal. CAF will listen to you, will send your case to the arbitration committee, and they resolve. They'll have a ruling on that, whether it'll be right or wrong, but that is the right way to go. But that's not what the committee did. They went on writing a letter to CAF, which was never heard. CAF never replied to them or nor answered to them. They were told the right thing to do, they refused, and now see where we are. We are likely to have more of these cases.
And I think we were talking with you just before we went on air about the impact. I think for some reason we underestimated the impact of the appointment of the FKF caretaker committee, because when the now disbanded FKF body was there, there were some things that were quite accessible to you as a journalist, to me
yeah.
as a journalist, and we cannot find that. So going forward, what do you think is the way forward for this particular issue?
I think there is a lot that meets the road so much. I don't know where they shall begin, but I feel the problem is much bigger. Maybe it's time the government can lower their ego. They come down to the level where they can talk to CAF. They can talk to one another, to CAF and to the former regime. Because the problem we have here is CAF and FIFA don't recognize the caretaker committee.
Yeah.
So whatever they are doing is in futility. They need to have a situation whereby CAF can recognize this committee. If CAF or FIFA doesn't recognize this caretaker committee, then the government needs to look or rather find a balance or somebody who CAF can talk to.
Yeah.
Or who FIFA can talk to. Because as long as FIFA is not talking to you, is talking to another person who is not in charge of the footballing matters, then you are in vain.
Yeah.
You are doing nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's hope this whole issue, and I think you're going to be continuing that conversation after the break. Well, we take a short commercial break. After the break, we're going to be talking about the Kenya Premier League table standings, and now it's shaping up. Some of the games that were played this past week, you're going to be doing a post-match analysis of that. See you after the break.